The smell hit him first. Not rot, not death, not even filth, though that was there too. No, it was the scent of fear. Sharp, heavy, the kind that clings to skin and stays in the air long after the source is gone. Corporal Jace Halden stood at the edge of the refugee camp, boots crunching against the brittle dust, eyes locked on the figure chained to a rusted post. The alien girl wasn't moving. Her knees were drawn to her chest, arms wrapped around her legs like a makeshift shield. Her hair, if it could be called that, hung in matted ropes, clumped with dried mud and what looked like blood. Her skin was pale gray, stretched tight over bones, and covered in bruises that bloomed like dark flowers. Jace could see the way the camp guards stepped around her, like she carried disease, like she was less than trash. No one spoke to her. No one even looked. Not directly. He watched a traitor spit near her feet. She didn't flinch, didn't move. What's her story? Jace asked. The camp officer beside him shrugged. Found her wandering the wastelands 2 weeks ago. Covered in muck, speaking no known language. No tech, no implants. Some say she's a defected spawn from the Viraki broods. Others think she's just mad. Either way, she's not ours. So you chained her up? Protocol. No ID. No DNA. Match. Until command clears her, she's off limits. Jace's jaw tightened. He had seen war. He had seen monsters. This girl was not one. He stepped closer. The camp officer grabbed his arm. Don't. She hasn't eaten in days. We offered. Her standard rations she refused. Just sits there like a broken bot. Jace pulled free. He moved slowly, boots soft in the dirt. When he reached her, he crouched, lowering himself until his eyes were level with hers. She didn't look up. I'm not here to hurt you, said gently. Nothing. A whisper of wind danced through the wires overhead. The camp's lights buzzed, flickering under the low energy shield. Jace noticed a tremble run through the girl's shoulders. It wasn't from the cold. It was something deeper. Something hollow. He took a chance. He removed his glove, reached into the satchel on his belt, and pulled out a small metal container. Inside was a protein bar, standard issue, but real food. He unwrapped it slowly, letting her see every movement. Then he placed it on the ground, just out of her reach. If you're hungry, he said, it's yours. He stood and walked back 5 steps. Waited. She didn't move, but after 10 long seconds, her eyes flicked up. Just once. Golden, not yellow. Not glowing. Golden, like polished metal warmed by the sun. Jace felt something tighten in his chest. She crawled forward on shaky arms, her movements stiff, painful. When her hand closed around the bar, he expected her to eat it fast, like the starving often did. She idn single quotes t. Instead, she held it close, stared at it, and then looked up again. This time straight into his eyes. And Jace knew in that moment something powerful. She wasn't broken. She was testing him. My name is Jace, he said quietly. You don't have to stay here. The girl tilted her head. A strand of hair fell from her face, revealing more bruises, a cut running down her jawline. Her lips parted. No words came out, but her eyes said enough. They were pleading. Jace turned. I'm taking her. The officer's face went cold. You can't. She's not. I'm human. I make my own choices. This isn't about choices. She could be dangerous. Jace looked back at the girl. So am I. With that, he stepped forward, undid the restraints, and lifted her into his arms. She was light, too light, a whisper of a person. She stiffened at first, but then slowly let her head rest against his chest. The camp fell silent. People stared, some with disgust, others with fear. But no one moved. Jace walked straight through them, boots never stopping. He didn't know who she was, didn't know what she'd been through, but he knew this. He had seen monsters wear the faces of good men, and he had seen gentle hearts trapped in the bodies of those considered enemy. He didn't know if she was human, but she was someone, and someone deserved a home. The water hissed as it hit the floor, steam rising like morning fog on old Earth. Jace adjusted the temperature, letting it warm a little more. The small habitation pod he called home wasn't built for guests, especially not alien ones, but it had what she needed: heat, light, privacy, and water. He turned back to her slowly. She stood by the doorway, still wrapped in the same rags she had worn at the camp. They clung to her thin frame, soaked with old filth, stiff with dust and dried blood. Her feet were bare. Her breathing was soft, but too fast. He knelt to meet her gaze. "It's safe," he said gently. "No one here will hurt you." She didn't speak, but her eyes scanned everything: the lights, the soap bar on the sink, the folded towel, the clean set of gray clothing he had borrowed from his emergency kit. She didn't seem to recognize any of it. Then her eyes stopped on the water. She took one step back. Jace held up both hands, palms open. "I'm not going to watch. I'll wait outside the door. But you need to clean. That stuff on your skin, it's hurting you." Her gaze dropped to her arms. The bruises were still deep, but beneath them, red blotches had spread from dried toxins and surface infections. Alien or not, she was dying from neglect. He pointed to the soap. "You use that. Wash everything. Take your time." She looked up at him, not confused, not afraid, just unsure. Jace slowly backed out of the room. "I'll be right here, I promise." He closed the door gently behind him and sat on the floor outside, leaning back against the cold metal wall. For a long time, there was nothing. No movement, no sound. He stared at the ceiling, wondering what in the galaxy he had just done. The reports would be a nightmare. His squad was going to think he'd lost it. Command might even pull his license. And yet, there was something about her, not just sadness. Something more. A presence, a quiet force that lingered in the air around her, like gravity bending just a little harder in her direction. Then he heard it. The water, running. And moments later barely audible over the hum of the pod systems, a soft sob, not of pain. Of release. Jace felt his chest tighten. He didn't know what had been done to her. Didn't know how long it had been since she felt warmth or cleanliness or silence. But he could guess. When the water finally stopped, he stood and waited. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Finally, the door clicked open. She stepped out slowly, the towel wrapped around her like a shield. Her skin was a lighter gray now, smoother, cleaner. The bruises looked darker without the grime, but her eyes, those golden eyes, seemed clearer. She held the soap in her hand, and when she looked up at him, she extended it. Returning it. Jace took it gently. "You did good," he said. She nodded. "Just once." He handed her the clean clothes and turned his back. "There's food on the table. Eat if you're hungry." He heard soft footsteps, the sound of fabric, and then silence. When he turned back, she was sitting cross-legged on the floor beside the table, dressed in the gray clothes, her hair damp and pushed behind her ears. She held the plate in both hands like it was a treasure, and slowly brought the first bite to her mouth. She chewed. Swallowed. And then, to Jace's surprise, her lips twitched. Just slightly. A smile. Fragile, but real. He sat across from her, careful not to startle. "I need to ask something," he said softly. "Who are you?" She looked at him for a long time. Then her mouth opened. A sound came out low, broken, like a whisper pulled from smoke. The words were hard to understand, but they were there. "Not name." He leaned forward. "You don't have a name?" She shook her head slowly. Jace thought for a moment. Can I give you one? She tilted her head. How about ... Luma? It means light in an old human tongue. She blinked, then nodded again. Luma, he said, smiling. She placed a hand gently on her chest. Luma. The room felt warmer suddenly, but deep inside, Jace still felt it, that sense of something strange, something heavy. The air around her wasn't normal. Even the pod's lights flickered once when she spoke, whatever she was. She wasn't just another alien refugee. She was something more. Something the universe had tried to throw away, and Jace wasn't about to let that happen again. Jace woke to silence. Not the peaceful kind, but the kind that pressed on your ears like the air itself was listening. His pod was dim, the soft glow of standby lights humming near the floor. The internal clock said it was just past fourth cycle, too early for camp noise. Too late for patrol alerts. His eyes flicked toward the far corner. Luma wasn't in her bed. He sat up fast, heart jumping. His boots hit the floor as he moved toward the main room. Then he stopped. She was standing near the window. The outer shield shimmered faintly, casting a soft blue glow across her damp hair and thin frame. Her hands were pressed to the glass, fingers spread wide, eyes staring out into the dark expanse beyond the dome. He stayed quiet for a moment. Then, softly, he asked, "Can't sleep?" She didn't turn, but she spoke. They whisper. Jace stepped closer. Who? Luma's voice was soft, like the memory of wind. The ones beyond the stars, the ones who called me before. He frowned. You mean your people? She shook her head slowly. Not anymore. There was something in her tone, something ancient. Not just sadness. Rejection. He moved beside her, keeping his distance. Luma, who are they? Where do you come from? For a while she didn't answer. Then she said, I was born under red suns. Raised in a hive where names were forbidden. Only ranks, only commands. We were tools. I broke their silence when I asked a question. Jace turned to face her fully. What did you ask? Why does it hurt when we are thrown away? He felt a chill run through him, not from the air. From the words. Luma finally looked at him. I was discarded after that. Sent into space alone. But something else found me. A presence. It wrapped around me. It spoke in dreams. It kept me alive. It told me to find a human. Jay swallowed hard. Why a human? She stepped closer, her golden eyes burning faintly in the blue glow. Because humans remember pain, but still choose kindness. His chest tightened. He didn't know how to respond. She wasn't just a lost girl anymore. She was connected to something vast and invisible. Something watching from far beyond what sensors could detect. And whatever it was, it had chosen him. A sharp knock broke the silence. Jace turned fast, hand on the sidearm near the door. Open up. Internal patrol, he cursed under his breath. Stay behind me. He unlocked the door. It hissed open to reveal two armed officers. In black gear, their faces half lit by visor scans. Corporal Jace Halden? One of them asked. That's me. You're ordered to turn over the alien female for quarantine processing. New command override. Sector 3 found energy fluctuations traced to this unit. Unauthorized. Jace's voice dropped cold. She's not a threat. That's not your call. Behind him, he heard Luma take a step forward. The officers flinched. Their scanners sparked with red. Energy spike confirmed. She's emitting pulses unknown frequency. We're authorized to use force if necessary. Jace blocked their line of sight. Back off. You're interfering with security protocol. You're pointing weapons at someone who hasn't hurt anyone. The air thickened. A low hum filled the room. Jace turned slightly, just enough to glance back. Luma wasn't angry. She wasn't afraid. She was glowing just slightly, like sunlight caught in fog. Her skin shimmered where the light touched it, and her eyes were locked on the soldiers not with fear, but with quiet strength. "Stand down," Jace growled. "I said back off." The soldiers hesitated, and Luma whispered something, one word, not in English. Not in any language Jace knew, but the air around them shifted. The lights dimmed. The temperature dropped a full 2 degrees, and the scanners on the soldiers' visors went black. "Systems failing," one muttered. "Fall back," the other snapped. "Now?" They backed out fast, doors hissing shut behind them. Silence. "Return." Jace turned to Luma, heart racing. "What was that?" She looked down at her hands. The glow faded. "I don't know. It only happens when I feel cornered," he nodded slowly. Then stepped closer. "You don't have to be afraid." "Not here." Luma looked up. "They will come back. Then I'll be ready." She stared at him, then stepped forward and reached out. Her fingers brushed his. It was the first time she touched him by choice. And Jace felt a warmth, not heat, not energy. Something deeper. Trust. The kind forged not in words, but in silence and shared danger. Outside, the stars turned slowly. Somewhere far beyond the dome, things were watching. But inside that small pod, in that quiet corner of the galaxy, a girl the universe tried to throw away had finally found something worth holding on to. Jace woke to silence. Not the peaceful kind, but the kind that pressed on your ears like the air itself was listening. His pod was dim, the soft glow of standby lights humming near the floor. The internal clock said it was just past 4th cycle, too early for camp noise, too late for patrol alerts. His eyes flicked toward the far corner. Luma wasn't in her bed. He sat up fast, heart jumping. His boots hit the floor as he moved toward the main room. Then he stopped. She was standing near the window. The outer shield shimmered faintly, casting a soft blue glow across her damp hair and thin frame. Her hands were pressed to the glass, fingers spread wide, eyes staring out into the dark expanse beyond the dome. Jace stayed quiet for a moment. Then, softly, he asked, "Can't sleep?" She didn't turn, but she spoke. They whisper. Jay stepped closer. "Who?" Luma's voice was soft, like the memory of wind. "The ones beyond the stars, the ones who called me before." He frowned. "You mean your people?" She shook her head slowly. "Not anymore." There was something in her tone, something ancient. Not just sadness. Rejection. He moved beside her, keeping his distance. "Luma, who are they? Where do you come from?" For a while she didn't answer. Then she said, "I was born under red suns, raised in a hive where names were forbidden. Only ranks, only commands. We were tools." I broke their silence when I asked a question. Jace turned to face her fully. "What did you ask? Why does it hurt when we are thrown away?" He felt a chill run through him, not from the air, from the words. Luma finally looked at him. "I was discarded after that, sent into space alone, but something else found me, a presence. It wrapped around me. It spoke in dreams. It kept me alive. It told me to find a human." Jay swallowed hard. "Why a human?" She stepped closer, her golden eyes burning faintly in the blue glow. "Because humans remember pain, but still choose kindness." His chest tightened. He didn't know how to respond. She wasn't just a lost girl anymore. She was connected to something vast and invisible. Something watching from far beyond what sensors could detect. And whatever it was, it had chosen him. A sharp knock broke the silence. Jace turned fast, hand on the sidearm near the door. "Open up." "Internal patrol," he cursed under his breath. "Stay behind me." He unlocked the door. It hissed open to reveal 2 armed officers. In black gear, their faces half lit by visor scans. "Corporal Jace Halden?" one of them asked. "That's me. You're ordered to turn over the alien female for quarantine processing. New command override. Sector 3 found energy fluctuations traced to this unit." Unauthorized, Jace's voice dropped cold. "She's not a threat. That's not your call." Behind him, he heard Luma take a step forward. The officers flinched. Their scanners sparked with red. Energy spike confirmed. "She's emitting pulses on known frequency. We're authorized to use force if necessary." Jace blocked their line of sight. "Back off. You're interfering with security protocol. You're pointing weapons at someone who hasn't hurt anyone." The air thickened. A low hum filled the room. Jace turned slightly, just enough to glance back. Luma wasn't angry. She wasn't afraid. She was glowing. Just slightly. Like sunlight caught in fog. Her skin shimmered where the light touched it. And her eyes were locked on the soldiers, not with fear, but with quiet strength. "Stand down," Jace growled. "I said back off." The soldiers hesitated. Then Luma whispered something. One word. Not in English. Not in any language Jace knew. But the air around them shifted. The lights dimmed. The temperature dropped a full 2 degrees. And the scanners on the soldiers' visors went black. "Systems failing," one muttered. "Fall back," the other snapped. "Now." They backed out fast, doors hissing shut behind them. Silence. "Return." Jace turned to Luma, heart racing. "What was that?" She looked down at her hands. The glow faded. "I don't know. It only happens when I feel cornered." He nodded slowly. Then stepped closer. "You don't have to be afraid." "Not here." Luma looked up. "They will come back. Then I'll be ready." She stared at him, then stepped forward and reached out. Her fingers brushed his. It was the first time. She touched him by choice. And Jace felt a warmth, not heat, not energy. Something deeper. The morning came gray and heavy. Clouds swirled above the dome like tired ghosts, and the first cold wind of the cycle crept through the edges of the camp's shields. Jace stepped outside his pod, a hot mug in one hand, scanning the perimeter. Everything looked normal, but normal was a lie now. Since Luma's energy pulse last night, the camp had changed. He felt it in the way the guards stood straighter, in the silence between words, in the eyes that followed him, no longer curious, but cautious. He had seen this before. On war worlds, right before someone was labeled a threat. He looked back toward the pod. Luma sat near the table, knees pulled close, her hands cupped around a small heater cube. The new clothes fit her better now. She looked cleaner, stronger. But she was still too quiet. She hadn't spoken a word since the soldiers came. He walked back in, set the mug down, and knelt beside her. "Luma," he said gently, "what you did last night, that wasn't normal. Do you know what it was?" She didn't move. He waited. Finally, her voice broke through the silence. "I didn't want to hurt them." "You didn't, but you scared them." Her fingers tightened around the cube. "Fear is the only language they understand." Jace winced. "Some of them, maybe, but not all." She looked at him. "You're different. You still see me." He nodded. "I do. But others won't. Not unless you show them who you are." Her eyes dropped. "What if who I am is something they fear?" Jace reached out and touched her hand. "Then we teach them how to be brave." A long pause. Then she whispered, "I dreamed last night." He blinked. "What did you see?" Her voice turned quiet, almost hollow. "Flames. Cities turned to dust. Ships falling from the sky. And something calling me." His heart sank. Was it a memory? She shook her head. A warning. Outside, a sharp beep echoed through the air. A signal Incoming dropship.jace stood fast, moving to the console. The screen lit up with data. Unidentified class, descending fast, cloaked signature, landing just outside camp borders. He looked at Luma. That dream, did it feel real? She nodded. Like it was already happening. He strapped on his gear. Stay inside. No, she said, rising to her feet. If it's them, they came for me. He paused. Who's them? Her. Eyes darkened. The ones who hear what I hear but twisted. They want silence, not truth. Jace didn't fully understand. But he didn't need to. His gut told him something bad was coming. They reached the outer edge of the camp within minutes. Guards were already positioned behind barricades, rifles trained on the swirling dust cloud forming beyond the shield. Jace stepped forward, badge raised. Corporal Jace Halden. What's the situation? A commander pointed at the sky. Stealth ship to cloak 2 clicks out. Just hovering. No hail. No signature match. It's not from any human colony. And definitely not council registered. Jace's eyes narrowed. No weapons yet? Not yet. Luma stepped beside him. The wind caught her hair, tossing it across her face. The moment she appeared, the air shimmered and the ship moved slowly, deliberately, toward them. That's no accident. One soldier muttered. Luma took a step forward. Wait, Jace warned. Know that ship? She said softly. It's not just here for me. The ground trembled faintly. Not enough to knock anyone off balance, but enough to remind them this ship was not small. The underside opened. No troops emerged. Just a voice, not heard through speakers, but felt, a deep echoing whisper inside every person's skull. Return the vessel, or we will take her. Jace flinched. What the hell was that? Luma stared straight ahead, unmoving. They called me a vessel, not a person. What do they mean? She looked up at him, her face pale. They put something inside me. When they left me in the void. Jace stared at her. What? Fragment of their mind, their will. They wanted to use me as a bridge, to control other races through me. But I broke the connection. I survived alone, and now they want it back. Jace's pulse raced. Can you fight them? She nodded once. If I choose to awaken the part of me they fear, and what happens then? She turned to him. I stopped being just Luma. Jace stepped closer, his voice low. Then whatever you become, I'll still stand beside you. She looked at him for a long time. And then finally her lips parted. Then I choose now. Her body began to glow again, brighter this time. Not soft, but pulsing. The ship above shifted, metal groaning. It began to rise, retreating, but not before the voice returned, full of rage. She has chosen wrong. Now your world ends with her. The ship vanished into the sky, disappearing with a flash. Jace turned to Luma. What did you do? She closed her eyes. I told them. I'm not theirs anymore. He stepped beside her, heart pounding. And now? She opened her eyes. They were no longer gold. They were burning white. Now? They will come for us all. Trust. The kind forged not in words, but in silence and shared danger. Outside. The stars turned slowly. Somewhere far beyond the dome, things were watching. But inside that small pod, in that quiet corner of the galaxy, a girl the universe tried to throw away had finally found something worth holding on to. The skies stayed quiet for 3 days, but the silence was not peace. It was a breath held before the scream. JACE watched from the edge of the camp as patrol drones flew in slow circles. Energy barriers were raised higher. Civilian movements were restricted. No one was told the full truth, but everyone felt it. Something had changed the moment that ship left. Even the air tasted different. He sat on a low crate near the food station, helmet resting at his side, chewing through a half-worm. ration. But his eyes kept drifting to the command tower. That's where they were keeping the records now, watching Luma. Studying her dot, she hadn't left the pod since the ship vanished. Not once. Not because she was scared, but because she was changing. Checked his wrist screen vitals steady, though slightly elevated. Her body temp ran high, like she was holding back a storm. He couldn't shake the image of her eyes glowing white. He'd seen weapons. Plasma blades, shock mines, orbital lasers. But he'd never seen a person shine like that dot, and she had done it without anger. Just choice. Corporal Halden. He looked up. The voice belonged to Commander Elvarin, senior officer of Sector 9. Silver hair cut short, sharp eyes, not cruel. Just tired from too many truths. Commander, he said, rising. We need to talk, in private. He followed her through the main structure, past corridors humming with nervous officers. The war room was dim, screens glowing red and blue with threat markers. Varin tapped a console and brought up an image. Luma from above, captured hours ago. She was sitting cross-legged on the floor, hands resting on her knees, glowing faintly. The sensors showed energy fields forming around her body in delicate patterns, like solar flares trapped beneath skin. Her readings match nothing we've ever seen, Varin said. No known tech, no implants, no symbiotic parasites. But there's something inside her. Something older than our science, Jace nodded. She said they called her a vessel. A vessel, Varin repeated. For what? Something that wanted to use her to speak across species. To control. Varin's jaw tightened. And now she's resisting it. Yes. And you still believe she's not dangerous? Jace stepped forward. She's not what we should be afraid of. The ones who used her, the ones who sent that ship, they're coming back. She said it, and I believe her. Varin stared at him. Then turned to another console. It lit up with a new image, a strange black star blinking in and out of deep space scans. We picked this up an hour ago. Outside Saturn's shadow. It's not moving. But everything near it is vanishing. Ships, signals, time. Jace felt his chest tighten. They're already here. We need to decide what to do with her. He looked at her sharply. What does that mean? Command is debating whether to extract the energy inside her or terminate. Jace's fists clenched. She's not a lab rat. She's a question the universe just threw at our doorstep. And we don't have time to answer it the slow way. Jace turned. Then I'll take her off-world. Now. Get her away from here. You won't make it past orbit. They're watching. Then we stand and fight. Varin sighed. With what? Pulse rifles and bad hope? Jace walked toward the door. Sometimes, hope's all that matters. He reached the pod within minutes, blood still pounding in his ears. Inside, Luma sat still, eyes closed. There. Coming, he said. She nodded. I know. They want to pull you apart. They think the light inside you is dangerous. She opened her eyes. And this time, they were not just white. They were filled with stars. It is. He froze. Luma. She stood slowly. The glow around her pulsed like waves of starlight. I can hold them off, she whispered, but I have to leave this form. What does that mean? I won't die, but I won't be like this anymore. I won't remember your name, your voice, your kindness, only the core of your choices. Jace shook his head. No, there has to be another way. She stepped forward. Her hand touched his chest, soft and warm. You gave me a home, even when I had no name, no shape, no hope. He looked into her eyes. And for a second, he saw every world she had seen. Every pain, every prison, every cold star, every scream. In the dark, and he saw one truth. She had never been alone. Not really. He had been there in every memory, though they had just met. She smiled gently. When I leave, that light will protect this place. It will remember you. And if I follow you? Her hand squeezed his. Then the stars will remember us both. Outside, the sky began to split. The black star had arrived. Ships fell like shadows behind its glow dot, but within the pod. Luma took one final breath, and then she became light dot, pure dot, endless dot, and Jace stood in the middle of it. Unburned, unbroken dot, because kindness had made him more than human dot. It had made him unforgettable. The sky turned red, not from fire, not from bombs, but from something deeper, as if space itself had bled open and let a god fall through. Above the camp, the black star grew. Not a sun, not a planet, just a void, hungry and alive. It pulsed. Once, every device died. Drones dropped from the air. Oxygen filters stuttered. Engines failed. Time slowed. Jace stood alone on the hill near the outer wall, staring up. Breath frozen. Luma was gone, or at least the girl he had known, but the light she left behind. It had not vanished. It had become part of the world. And now that light was answering. Just as the first black ship emerged silent, smooth, shaped like a dagger made of night. A beam of golden light erupted from the ground near Jace's feet. It wasn't fire. It was memory. It was her. The beam split into arcs, racing across the sky like veins of hope. Wherever the golden light touched, the black fog recoiled. The red sky cracked. And then the impossible happened. The black ship halted. Its sleek hull shimmered, glitching like a broken projection. Its nose dipped ever so slightly, as if Boeing. Jace stared, heart thudding. What are you doing? The light pulsed again, and suddenly Jace wasn't standing on the hill anymore. He was floating in stars. Not dead, not dreaming. Floating. Before him stood a shape, not a girl, not a weapon. A being of radiant energy, shaped like a human but stretching beyond the edges of sight. Her face was a glowing outline, but the golden eyes remained. Luma? He asked. Softly. Her voice came not from her mouth, but from everywhere. I am the echo of who she was. But her heart is still here because of you. Jace's throat tightened. Where is she? Spread across the stars. She is part of the weave now. The enemy cannot take her again. He stepped forward, or tried to. Space didn't move. Time didn't bend. He whispered, Can she come back? The being tilted her head. Only if the universe becomes kind enough to make room for her again. Jace looked down. And he saw Earth. No. The camp beneath his feet, the people, the soldiers, Commander Varan. They were all watching as the black ship hovered silently, doing nothing, because it couldn't, not while the light remained. You gave her your trust, the being said. So now the stars trust you. What am I supposed to do with that? Jace whispered. Double quotes. Be the first. Show them. Teach them how to see the broken as beautiful. Then she reached out one glowing hand and touched his chest. The moment she did, pain surged through his body. Not from harm, but from understanding. His mind filled with echoes, voices, histories, stars being born, planets dying, laughter from alien throats, tears that fell in vacuum. And all of it passed through him like fire and wind. He gasped. And then he was back on the hill. Knees in the dirt. The light was gone. The sky was quiet. The black ship was leaving. No engines, no sound, just drifting backward, slowly, like a shadow ashamed of its shape. Cum system sparked back to life. Oxygen filters steadied. The world breathed again. Behind him, Commander Varan approached. What happened? She asked, her voice small. Jace stood slowly, blinking through tears. She didn't fight them. Then how? She showed them something stronger. What? He turned to face her. Grace. Varan looked up at the sky. Will they come back? He nodded. Yes, one day. Darkness always does. And what then? He looked to the stars where the light had gone. Then we remind them again. Varan stared at him. Who is she now? Jay smiled quietly. She's the reason the stars just bowed. The story should have ended there. Black ship gone. The light dispersed. The skies calm again. But peace, Jace had learned, is not the end of a storm. It's the work that comes after it. The days that followed were quiet, but not normal. The camp was no longer just a camp. It had become a point of remembrance. The place where the stars paused. Where an alien girl, once called filthy and dangerous, changed everything. Luma was never seen again. Not in the way he had known her, but her presence never left. Flowers began growing near the hill where the light had bloomed. No one planted them. They just appeared. Golden vines, soft and warm to the touch. When children sat near them, they calmed. When soldiers rested beside them, their nightmares faded. People said it was nothing. Just nature. But Jace knew better. The third day, Central Command contacted him. They offered him a medal. He refused. They offered promotion. He refused that too. Instead, he asked for a transfer to the edges of known space. Not to escape, but to search. For answers. For more like her. For the quiet ones no one else saw. Before he left, he visited the place where she had first stood chained, silent, forgotten. Now, a small structure stood there. Not a monument, not a statue. Just a circle of stone, open to the sky, with her name carved into the center. Luma. Beneath it, in Jace's own handwriting, was the line she never said, but had always lived. Kindness is not weakness, it's the language of the strong. He knelt there, fingers brushing the stone. You were never just a vessel, he whispered. You were a mirror. You showed us what we hide, and you made us better. A breeze passed over the hill. Soft, warm. He smiled. He stood and walked back toward his ship. As the engines hummed to life, and the camp shrank in the distance, Jace looked up one last time. A star blinked in the sky, but it wasn't blinking. It was watching. He smiled again. I see you, he whispered. And in that quiet space between stars, far beyond light or dark, something golden moved. A whisper in the void. A glow on the edge of creation. Not a weapon, not a monster. But a girl. A name. Memory. Luma. And wherever broken things wandered the galaxy, a warmth would find them. A voice would reach them. Not in words, but in feeling. You are not trash. You are not too late. You are not alone. And always, always in the smallest corners of the darkest worlds. A new light would appear, not loud. Not proud. Just strong enough to begin something again, because one human once gave her a home, and that was enough to awaken a dawn the galaxy could never extinguish.